Welcome to the Degenerate Gamblers. It's Monday. I got my lucky Yankees hat on with a picture of Yankee Stadium because the Dodgers come in town tonight, and we need a W. Oh my God, we need a W. I don't know if Otani's playing or not, but we got to get a win tonight. That is key. Let's get right into it. Let's talk a little bit about college football this past weekend and what we have in store next week. First of all, let's get it right out of the way. Let's talk about my pick of the week, the pick I loved, and that was the Naval Academy. Oh my God. Woo! Listen, sometimes it happens, man. I mean, if you look at that game, what was the score? 51-14, something like that. If you watch that game, Navy had no problem moving the ball against Notre Dame. What they did have a problem with was holding on to the ball. 5 fumbles. I mean, 2 fumbles, you have a tough time beating a team. 3 fumbles, forget about it. 5 fumbles. So that's what we were dealing with Saturday. It happens. If you look at games this year, look at Syracuse Friday night against Pitt. Quarterback McCord threw 5 interceptions. You can't do that. You can't turn the ball over. You can't make mistakes. You have no chance of winning the game, let alone covering. So, you know what? If I had to do it over again, I still would have picked Navy. I still think they're an excellent team. I just think it was one of those days. I was actually texting back and forth with one of my very good friends who retired as a lieutenant colonel, graduate of the Naval Academy, and he said, "Hey, these days happen. Nothing's going good for them. They just continue to just shoot themselves in the foot. But they're a good team. They'll be back, and that's out of the way. We ended up that day coming back a little bit. We had California. We had Alabama. I'm looking. We had UConn covered by half a point. The team that the game that surprised me was SMU just squeaking by Duke. I'm not that impressed with Duke. SMU had been playing extremely well. They kind of squeaked by. They got lucky to win there to keep their playoff hopes semi alive. How about Texas A&M just blasting LSU? LSU's done. They're done. They're a great team at home at night, not on the road. They had problems. In Indiana, the juggernaut that they are, they just keep rolling. It didn't matter. That backup quarterback looks solid. I think they're going to win with either one. But Indiana's rolling. Their playoff hopes look amazing right now. They look solid if they can keep this going. The teams that needed to do something like Alabama did. They absolutely blasted Missouri. Um, Oklahoma went down. A lot of these teams you're looking at that are not original or OG SEC teams starting to show a little bit, having some problems. Let's see if Texas can continue to bounce back here. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But last week was kind of what, look, college football, anything can happen. All you had to do was look at, what was it, Thursday night, Kennesaw State? They had not come close to beating anybody. They were terrible, and they beat undefeated Liberty 27-24. Anything can happen in college football. You got to remember that. The only thing we can do is we can break down some metrics. We can look at different coaches and coaching styles. We can look at past performance, and we can just try to lean the odds in our favor. That's all you can do. Anyone that comes out and says, we go 10-1 every week, they're full of shit. We are up nicely on the season. If you've been with us, you know that. We're up still, I think, over 250 units. But you're going to have weekends where you don't crush, like this past weekend. Let's talk about some of the teams that are on the up and up and still look really good. Look, Oregon. What are you going to say against Oregon? Oregon's undefeated. They look solid. They're continuing to roll. Boise State squeaked one out against UNLV, a good UNLV team. Boise State's alive and well in the playoff hunt. Miami, undefeated. They do what they have to do. Ohio State, they look terrible. They just, what a sloppy game. They just squeaked one out, got a huge win this weekend against Penn State. Ohio State's a team that needs to pull an Alabama and just have a statement game. Will they? We'll see. BYU. BYU ended up being an underdog Saturday, and they got on top of Central Florida quickly. BYU continues to roll. They're a covering machine. They're like Indiana, BYU. How do you bet against them? They cover every single week. Texas A&M, huge statement win. They're in the driver's seat right now as far as the SEC goes and getting in the playoff. I mean, they just spanked LSU. Louisville went out against Boston College. They have a big game this weekend against Clemson. We'll talk a little bit about that. Penn State, undefeated. I'm not that impressed. I'm not. I mean, we'll see this Saturday. They play Ohio State. We will see this Saturday. I don't know. I don't. Pitt's undefeated. Pitt is still undefeated. Good team. Good defense. Iowa State, undefeated. Sit nicely in the Big 12. Looking at BYU in that situation as far as possibly winning that conference. Ohio State, good God, they just look bad. They look rough. Penn State was interesting because they were getting beat. They were down and out. The quarterback went down. Alar goes down. That kid Pribula comes in and looked pretty good. He looked pretty good in leading them back and beating Wisconsin. So let's see what happens here as far as the quarterback situation. This kid looked like he hurt his knee. I haven't heard anything on whether he's going to play this weekend against Ohio State. That could be interesting. We have a couple interesting matchups this weekend. Let's get into this weekend. This weekend looks like there's probably not as many games, but there's some nice money-making opportunities. There are. Air Force goes into West Point as a plus 23-point dog against Army. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, look at the first half. Let's look at the first quarter, the first half, because Army's one of these teams, if they get up 28-30, they're going to pull some guys and put in their second, third string, and then Air Force could score. I'm just telling you that. I went to the game last weekend. That's what I saw. Virginia Tech, playing great ball, goes into Syracuse as a 4-point favorite. Syracuse coming off that rough game. I don't know. Will they bounce back? I think they probably have a good chance. I kind of tend to lean toward Syracuse in that particular game. A +4 dog at home. Look, McCord can he have two really bad games in a row? I tend to think not. So let's get into it. Look, right off the bat, we have games Tuesday. And we go right back to these guys play every single week. Florida International, FIU, playing at home. They're a favorite this weekend because they're playing lowly New Mexico State on the road. FIU -9.5. If you watch them, I think they're like 5-3 against the spread this year. I like FIU. They're at home. They'll have a decent crowd there. I like FIU -9.5. I got a feeling they'll come out and score early and often. That I'm telling you right now, I'll take them -9.5. I like FIU at home. I got a few other games. Got Louisiana playing at Texas State. And Louisiana Tech Tuesday going to Sam Houston. Louisiana Tech is a +10.5-point dog. Got to look at that game a little bit. Have to look at that game. Could they cover that? It's possible. A lot of dogs cover in that conference. And then you got, of course, Wednesday, you got Jacksonville State going to Liberty, coming off that horrendous loss against Kennesaw State. Liberty, -1.5 at home. Do they bounce back? They could be in trouble. Jacksonville State's got a pretty good squad. And then, of course, Wednesday, I love it. Kennesaw State again. Kennesaw State's on TV every single week right now. The black and gold's going to just be ingrained in our head. It's like a Class F or G Pittsburgh Steelers team. Kennesaw State goes to Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky, they throw the ball. They toss the ball. We've had them a few times this year. They're -24.5 at home. This game's not at Kennesaw. Where it was last week, it's on the road. I don't know. I mean, I can't say I'm like totally sold on Kennesaw State beating a good Liberty team, but they look good. The fullback was a beast. Quarterback made some great passes. The defense stepped up. Can they cover that 24 and a half? That'll be an interesting game to watch. We get into Thursday. You got Tulane, Charlotte. Friday, Georgia State goes to UConn. UConn covered by half point this week. Georgia State, good team. They beat Vanderbilt earlier. Go up to UConn. UConn's minus 7.5. That's an interesting hook right there. I could see UConn winning that game by 7. 7.5? I don't know. And then Friday, you got the Battle of Florida. You have South Florida at FAU. Florida Atlantic's are plus 2.5 at home. Florida Atlantic's a team that sometimes looks really good and other times looks absolutely horrendous. They play at home. South Florida's decent. Flip a coin on that one. I have no idea. No idea. But I'll be watching the Boise State game later that night, playing for San Diego State. Boise State is ranked 15th in the country right now. They have a legit shot to make the playoffs. They've lost one game to Oregon. They played Oregon tougher than anybody. Their running back, Genty. Oh my God, you got to watch this kid. This kid is a physical freak. He's a mutant. He stands in the backfield like he's half asleep and then give him the ball and he just starts rolling people over, spinning, jiving, juking. I love this kid. Boise State's a 23.5 point favorite at home. Coming off the big win over UNLV. I don't know. We'll have to look at that. You have to look a few metrics on that one. That's a lot of points. A lot of points. We get into Saturday at noon. Two teams, Illinois, they got put right back in their place last Saturday. They're at home against Minnesota as a 1.5 dog. They got spanked on Saturday. North Carolina plays at Florida State. This is interesting. North Carolina is not very good. They lost earlier this year to James Madison by 50. They're playing at Florida State. Florida State's a 2.5 point dog at home. They could make this interesting. North Carolina is not a great team. Florida State has athletes. You've seen the problems they've had this year. I think they've used like 4 different quarterbacks. 2.5 point dogs at home. That could be interesting. That could be something looking into. Then we get into Ohio State, Penn State. Penn State's at home. Noon. They'll be talking about the whiteout. Ohio State's 4th in the country. Penn State's 3rd. How is Penn State 3rd in the country? I do not know. They had to come back and beat Wisconsin. Now they're at home as a 3.5 point dog. Ohio State needs a statement game. Yeah, preseason they were 1-2, and it was between them and Georgia. They have not looked good. They've looked sloppy all over the place, not playing very good ball. This is a huge game for Ohio State and Penn State. But Ohio State needs to come in and make a statement here, maybe force a couple turnovers, get a big lead. I'm not that impressed with Penn State overall. I'm not. They should have gotten beat earlier by USC. USC had them beat. They missed that, 25-yard field goal? I will be watching that game. I will have a play on that game. The over-under is 47.5. That seems to me a little low. Seems a little low. I think Ohio State, this is their chance. They got to rack up some points here. Then we get another interesting game. We get Duke. We'll almost beat SMU this past weekend at home. They got to go to Miami. They've never really fared too well down in the southern state of Florida playing Miami. Miami's at 20 and a hook favorite. Isn't that interesting? 20 hook. Can you see them winning by 20? Yeah, I see a lot of opportunities this weekend where you can buy a half point, maybe toss a few teasers in and make a decent profit. We got Northwestern playing at Purdue. A lot of close lines this weekend. Very close lines. Purdue is plus 1.5 at home. Northwestern not playing great ball. They're not. And they're on the road. They're not playing at that small little middle school stadium while their stadium's being built, which I think is a big advantage, especially in shitty weather. That's another thing we got to look at this weekend. We're getting into that point, almost November, where the weather starts getting a little cold. You got to look at the weather. You got to look at these over-under lines. Interesting game right here. Pittsburgh plus 7.5. Plus 7.5. I'll say it. Going down to SMU. They're headed to Dallas. SMU barely squeaking by Duke. Pittsburgh rolling Syracuse. That looks like the biggest trap game in the world. That's a trap game. Why is Pitt a 7.5 point favorite? Good defense. Don't turn the ball over. SMU's at home. That's a trap game. I'm going to tell you right now, that is a trap game. I'm looking at the Mustangs, baby. I really am. I'm looking at SMU. Uh, that could be a big game. Then you got Iowa. Iowa playing at home. They just rolled this weekend. They're a minus 3.5 point favorite over Wisconsin at home. I tend to like the favorite there. I really do. Here's a game. Here's another little trap game for you. How about Vanderbilt going to Auburn? Vanderbilt plus 6.5 at Auburn. Auburn hasn't done much this year except for turn the ball over in big situations where they should have won and dropped easy passes, easy catches. Burn is almost a touchdown favorite at home. I mean, Vanderbilt's good. Vanderbilt beat Alabama. They've played everybody tough. Uh, Almost a touchdown underdog against a team that really hasn't done much this year. That's a trap game. It really is. Ole Miss going to Arkansas minus 6.5. Here's what I like. You got Michigan plus 15.5 points at home in the big house. When's the last time Michigan's been a plus 15.5 dog at home? Man, Vegas is putting a lot of faith in Oregon. Number one. Yeah, they are. They play great at home. Almost lost to Boise. But now they're going on the road as a 15.5 point favorite. Vegas is basically saying, Michigan, you suck. I mean, they are. Michigan's plus 570 on the money line at home. Over under 45.5. So what are they saying? They're saying that Oregon's going to score in the 30s here. That's what it looks like. Probably score in the 30s. And maybe Michigan scores a couple TDs. That's what it's looking like. I don't know. I tend to go with Oregon there. I don't have any faith in Michigan. I've watched them too many times this year. They don't have anything. We get into a couple other games here. It's one of my favorite games of the year, the world's largest cocktail party down in Jacksonville, Florida. You got Florida going in and facing Georgia. I say going in. It's basically a home game, but it's not. You'll see. It's red and blue. The whole stadium's red and blue. Georgia's a 16.5 point favorite. I think that's too many. Florida's been playing very good. They got a couple freshmen that are legit. These kids have stepped up. Last 4 or 5 games, Florida's looked great. Georgia made a statement last game. They're minus 16.5 points here. That's too high. I tend to lean toward the dog in this game, not the Georgia dogs. I tend to lean toward Florida, plus 16.5. This is a rivalry. I mean, there's not a bigger rivalry in the country than Florida, Georgia. I mean, today's Monday, and those caravans will be driving out tomorrow. They'll be partying from tomorrow until Sunday in Jacksonville, Florida. Trust me. I've been to a couple of these games. Most of these people by noon on Saturday forget why they're even there. That's true. Those parking lots will just be, you don't want to be there. It's going to be like New York City in the summer, that fine mist of urine just coming up and hitting you in the face. Got another interesting game. Arizona playing at Central Florida. Central Florida is minus 5.5 at home, coming off just a beatdown against BYU. They probably can come back and win this game. Arizona's not that great. Central Florida probably win this game. That's a game I like already. And then you got Indiana. I don't know if the starting quarterback's coming back. I think he probably is, but the backup at Indiana looked just as good. They go to Michigan State. Michigan State, man, this is a program that just improved a lot in 1 year. I mean, they're good. These guys don't make mistakes, and that kind of helps them because they don't have a ton of talent, but they're decent defensively. They're playing at home, plus a touchdown at home. I'll probably take Indiana. Yeah, how do you bet against Indiana? They cover every week. Who are we kidding here? Iowa State, undefeated, number 11 in the country at home against Texas Tech. They're going to be trying to make statement games every single weekend. 14 and a half. Look at these spreads this weekend. The hooks. You got to buy that half point. You got to get that down to 14 or 13 and a half because I can see Iowa State winning by 14. We keep going. You got UCLA playing Nebraska. Nebraska hung this weekend. I mean, Nebraska made it a game against Ohio State. They really did. Now they're at home against UCLA. We've seen UCLA a few times this year. Not very good. Again, 7.5. 7 in the hook. You got to buy that hook again if you like Nebraska. We keep going. Besides Georgia, Florida, Ohio State, Penn State, this is the third biggest game of the weekend. You got Louisville going into Clemson. Clemson is number 11 in the country. They've been tough ever since that loss to Georgia. They haven't covered the last 2 weeks. They played Louisville, after having a week off at home. They're minus 10.5. Minus 10.5. I'm not that impressed with Louisville. I'm not. I think Clemson probably covers this weekend. Minus 10.5. Buy the hook. Don't lay 10.5. Lay 9.5 for 10. Just telling you. Please. Been doing this for too many years. The hook will kill you. Speaking of the hook, you got Wisconsin playing Iowa. Iowa's minus 3.5 at home. 3.5. There's that hook. Here's an interesting game. Georgia Southern, who just got shellacked against Old Dominion. Went up, played as bad as you possibly can. They've played well this year. They actually gave Boise State a game. They beat James Madison. They're going to South Alabama. South Alabama's minus 5.5. Let's look at the injury report, see if a couple of these guys are coming back. That could be a close game. USC goes to Washington as a favorite, 2.5-point favorite. They played pretty well lately. When we get towards the end, you got, there's not a lot of late night games this Saturday. A lot of big early games, but Kentucky goes to Tennessee. Tennessee's laying 15.5 points against Kentucky. Kentucky's got a solid defense. Tennessee's 7th in the country. This game could be closer than 15.5 points. We finish it up. We got Texas Christian going to Baylor. Baylor's minus 3.5. Look, a lot of these teams in the Big 12 are right neck and neck with each other. You pretty much take Iowa State and BYU out of the picture. A lot of these teams, Kansas State, TCU, Baylor, they're all about the same. Baylor's at home laying 3.5. Again, there's that hook. I've never seen so many lines this weekend where the hook could come into play. We will be tossing out a few teasers this weekend, along with I'll be tossing out our Wildman Parlay. In case you don't know about the Wildman Parlay, we did hit one earlier this year, plus 31,000. I'll say it again, plus 31,000. The Wildman Parlay is one that I put out every week, and if it hits, everybody gets $100. If you're a member and you like this, hit the link, or if you're not a member, hit the link below. Hit the link, go to whop.com, join our Discord. We got a Discord, a bunch of guys on there. Look, we're right in the mix. We got hockey season, NBA. We crushed yesterday in hockey. We actually finished last night with a plus 540 parlay on the San Francisco 49ers game. We had Dak Prescott, what was he, plus 225 yards. Purdy, plus 200 above. We had Kittle's plus 50 yards. We had San Francisco money line, San Francisco over. It was like a 5-part parlay we hit, plus 500 and change. But look, go to whop.com, hit the link below, join the Discord. It's $24.99. Try it out for a month. If you don't like it, leave. You're not locked in. Try it for 1 month. Try it this weekend. Get on with our Wildman Parlay. If we hit it, you get $100. That's the way it is. But next Monday, oh my God, next Monday, college basketball starts. That's what we do here. That's probably the best thing we do besides college football is college basketball. If you followed me for the last few years, you've seen what we've done. Got good information. We follow metrics. We fire stuff out every single day. But look, we're having a great year in college football. Love you guys to join. If you like what you hear, look, just follow Howie Dewey on YouTube. Hit the like button. I'm going to put all kinds of content out. Did I say content? Content. But anyways, guys, it's going to be a good week. I love some of these games this week. It's one of those weekends where we got to narrow things down and really specialize and nail a few of these games. And what I'm looking at, I think it's going to be a good weekend. But thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, just follow Howie Dewey, hit the like button. Love you guys. Thank you.